Recording in progress.
Try the. Oh, no.
Well, we have 5 in favor and 2 out of communication. Can you hear us, Al? No, you can't.
I can hear you right now, Paul, but
Oh,
I
good,
couldn't hear
good.
anything before.
Okay, so now you can both hear us, right? Good, good, good. So I was calling for a vote on approval of the consent agenda. Do you both approve?
Yes.
Okay, I'll say passes unanimously. Okay. So we have 3 public hearings tonight. The first one is related to PZC initiated amendments to Article 3, 190-13 of the zoning regulations related to definitions. And I open the public hearing at 6:07 PM. Members present are Aho Corsi, Al Furtoni, Katie Furtoni, Wuch, Bernor, and Hadrinsky. Do we have a public notice?
Yes, we do, and I will happily read it into the record. And since this is our first public hearing of the night, I'll follow that up with the guidelines for public hearings for everyone who's here. So the following was published in the Wilmington Chronicle on Thursday, April 10th, 2025, and Thursday, April 17th, 2025. The Mansfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearings on Monday, April 21st, 2025, via a hybrid meeting to hear comments regarding the following applications. 6 p.m., PZC initiated amendments to Article 8, Section 190-13 of zoning regulations related to definitions, PZC file number 907-64. Information on how to participate in the public hearings will be included in the meeting agenda, available at least 48 hours prior to the hearings in the town's agenda center, www.mansfieldct.gov/agenda center. No information from the public shall be received after the close of the public hearings. Additional information regarding the applications is available in the Mansfield Planning Office, AP Beck Municipal Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, Mansfield CT 06268, or by emailing planzonedept@mansfieldct.org. Before I jump into that, I do just want to acknowledge Zach Anglin has joined us. So he is here, Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes.
For purposes of the public hearing. And
Hi, Zach.
if it pleases you, I'll jump into the guidelines.
Yep.
The purpose of tonight's hearings is to receive relevant information about the proposed application from the public. Order and decorum shall be maintained at all times during the hearing. The Commission reserves the right to adjourn the hearing to another date and time if the discussion becomes unruly and unmanageable. Given the hybrid format, we ask that everyone bear with us if we encounter any glitches, as we already have. If we are unable to overcome technical issues or the Commission is having difficulty understanding the information presented in this format, the hearing will be continued to another meeting. The order of presentations will be as followed. First, the applicant will present, then public comment will occur. First, those in support of the item in question, followed by those in opposition, and then finally, those undetermined and requesting additional information. Lastly, the applicant will have a chance to respond to some of these items that have been heard. When addressing the Commission, Please come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and any party, group, or organization you represent, if any, for the record, before beginning your comments. Make sure that the little glowing green light is on. If you're looking at the little light and it doesn't seem like it's glowing, hit it a few times. It will be glowing at some point. Make sure it's on. Limit your comments to the subject of the public hearing and avoid repetition where possible. Summarize reports and letters that have been submitted to the commission rather than reading them aloud, as all written information is copied and distributed to all members. Direct all questions and comments to the chair. Do not attempt to engage in dialogue with members of the commission, staff, or any other parties to the hearing. Speak clearly to ensure your comments are audible to members of the public watching from home and are recorded. Commission members may ask questions of anyone providing testimony, but will not discuss the relative merits of the application until the hearing is closed. Failure to abide by these policies and procedures could result in a muting of your microphone or in dismissal from the hearing. Instructions on how to participate in the public hearing are listed on the agenda. For those who would like to call in, please call 1-929-205-6099. Enter the meeting ID 851-4838-6415 and the no? Please hold.
Yeah.
We're going to try that again. Technical difficulties. Please call into 1-929-205-6099. Enter the following meeting ID, 862-2205-8172, and then the following passcode, 397402. I'll give those numbers again. 1-929-205-6099. Enter the meeting ID 862-2205-8172, and then the following passcode, 397402. If you encounter any problems calling into the hearing, please call the office at 860-429-3330, and a staff member will assist you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank
Hearing is
you.
yours.
Okay, so we are the applicants, so we'll start with Jennifer Kaufman.
Okay, so the first of the three public hearings is related to the definitions in your regulations. So as the commission knows, and the public probably knows, as we've been going through all of our regulations and doing a lot of cleanup. So the first section is for definitions. What we've done is we've consolidated all the definitions into one section. Previously, they were scattered throughout the regulations. For example, the stormwater regulations were in the stormwater section, and we wanted to make sure that they were consolidated all in one section. We added a reference to Black's Law Dictionary and changed the reference to Random House Dictionary to a comprehensive general dictionary. And we added some new definitions, and those are identified in the text of the draft amendment with an asterisk to support regulatory updates, including grooming facility, kennel commercial or commercial kennel, residence, single family, short-term rental, to support the revisions to the home occupation regulations that are on a future item in your agenda. We added a definition of building and structure because surprisingly your definitions did not have such definitions. We added a definition of duplex, multiplex, and apartment for clarity and consistency with the Planned Housing Design District regulations. We added a definition of two-family was made consistent with duplex. We added a definition of high tunnel and hoop house to clarify permitting of agricultural structures. And we updated definitions related to manufactured homes and new definitions for manufactured home permittee and manufactured home space to align with the new updated state statutes. So that's what we have. And I think now it's time to take comment from the public if there is any.
Yeah. Okay, so if anyone would like to comment on this first public hearing, this would be the time. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, come on up to the microphone, yeah.
And this public hearing is related just to the definitions, not to agriculture, which I think many of you are here for. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, great, yeah, we will, yes, so thank
That's
you.
next.
Right, yeah.
Tap
Is
it. Nope, it's not. Now.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello, Diane Dorfer, 87 Bassett's Bridge Road. In regards to the definition for high tunnel, I do know that State Building is working on that also. And so it's just something to have on your radar, because then that would apply statewide.
It's so have they adopted a definition for a high tunnel as of yet? This, isn't that in
Not
the
at
state?
this moment.
Okay,
Yeah, but thank you.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so if there's no further comments on this, the next step would be to close the hearing if the commission so desires. So I'd entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Corsi moves that we close the hearing.
Moved by Corsi. Which will second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, passes unanimously. So that public hearing is closed. Okay, so now we go on to the second public hearing, which is PCC initiated amendments to Article 8 of the zoning regulations related to agriculture. This public hearing is opened at 6:17. Members present are Aho, Corsi, Al Fertoni, Katie Fertoni, Witch, Bernor, and Hadrinsky. And
What
Yep.
hearing notice? Yeah.
I'm ready to read the public hearing
the
notice,
notice,
Mr. Chair.
yes, the notice
Yes.
comes next.
This notice was as follows and published on Thursday, April 10th and Thursday, April 17th, 2025. The Mansfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearings on Monday, April 21st, 2025 via a hybrid meeting to hear comments regarding the following applications. 6:05 p.m., PZC initiated amendments to Article 8, Section 190-65 of those zoning regulations related to agriculture. PZC file number 907-65. Information on how to participate in the public hearings will be included in the meeting agenda available at least 48 hours prior to the hearings in the town's agenda center, www.mansfieldct.gov/agenda center. No information from the public shall be received after the close of the public hearings. Additional information regarding these applications is available in the Mansfield Planning Office, AP Beck Municipal Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, Mansfield CT 06268, or by emailing planzonedept@mansfieldct.org.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Kaufman.
So I know that there's been a lot of, we did receive a lot of public comment regarding the zoning regulations related to agriculture. And I think we have a number of members of the public who are really care about these regulations, which is great to see. So there has been, in my staff memo, I'm just going to kind of read to you a statement, just because I kind of wanted to organize my thoughts. So the commission received significant public input regarding the PZC initiated amendments to the zoning regulations related to agriculture. And as you all know, this topic has been under consideration by the commission for some time. As reported to the Planning and Zoning Commission via email at a special meeting held on April 15th, 2025, the Agriculture Committee conducted further review of the proposed amendments. Following that discussion, the committee recommended that the Planning and Zoning Commission table the current amendments to allow additional time to research best practices for setbacks and animal densities on smaller residential lots. The goal of this research is to identify strategies that enable residents to raise animals and support a viable agricultural economy in Mansfield while minimizing neighborhood impacts, protecting environmental and human health, and ensuring animal welfare. In addition, the committee noted that the need to clarify and define terms such as farm stand and farm store within the regulations. Given the likely substantive nature of these changes that may result, staff is recommending that the current amendments be withdrawn. This approach will allow time for revised regulations to be thoughtfully developed appropriately referred and publicly noticed in accordance with requirements of the Connecticut General Statutes. Staff has conferred with the chair, who supports the recommendation to withdraw. Each individual who submitted public comment that we knew of has also been contacted to inform them of this recommendation and to clarify that the final decision on how to proceed rests with you all as commission members. So procedurally, as you did already, the commission has to open the public hearing. If the commission wishes to withdraw the application, it is common practice to open the hearing and immediately continue it without taking public comment, because by statute, you do have to continue a public hearing to a time and date certain. However, if you subsequently decide to withdraw this application, then that would be kind of null and void. So you can't discuss an application, the merits of an application, or make a decision on an application within the public hearing. So you will have to decide whether to withdraw this application under your item in old business. Finally, it's before the revised regulation is brought forward for a formal public hearing, staff recommends holding a public information session. This would provide a more flexible and interactive setting for community members to share input and ask questions before final language is drafted for the commission's consideration. Because as you all know, within the public hearing framework, it's a very formal process, and having a public information session may provide a better forum for folks to kind of iron out these details and for you to adopt a better regulation in the past. But again, ultimately, how you proceed with this is up to the commission. This is purely a staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. We have a proposed motion. If someone would like to put that forward.
Yep, to close the public, to continue. The public, right? So yes, to clarify, the motion, staff has, because of this staff recommendation, staff has drafted a motion to continue this public hearing to a time and date certain, which we put as May 5th. If you do wish to have the public speak to this regulation that is likely to change in a significant way after it goes back to the drawing table, and after you have a public information session, should you so choose, that's up to you. But I just wanted to let you know. So yes, if you continue this public hearing to a time and date certain, you can do it either without receiving public comment or with. So that is the communication that I've submitted to folks in the public. I know that a number of these procedural and legal requirements can be challenging to understand. It's taken us a long time to kind of figure all this out. So but it's really up to you. If you would like to hear public comment, that is up to you to decide.
Craig?
I'd like to hear from the public that's here while they're here instead of having them come back.
Okay, all right.
I've read all the communications so far that come in. It's skewed heavily in one way. I'd especially like to hear from people that are supportive of regulations controlling roosters, just so they have a voice as well.
Okay, so what we can do is we can.
We do have a question from Commissioner Anglin, who's online.
Yes. Yes, Zach.
Is there a way that we could repudiate the specific regulation? Say, okay, well, this is not the public hearing where we're going to decide whether or not this is the input for this specific regulation and acknowledge this is going to go back to the drawing board and then hear public input. Because I worry that if we try to do both, we have a lot of people here, we should hear from them. Mm-hmm. But if the framing of it is, what do you think about this specific regulation? And this is your opportunity to speak on it. Then we don't really set ourselves up well to go back and revise this regulation and come forward again in the future, which I think is what we want to do.
So I hear what you're saying, Zach. I think so right now, we are going to basically toss the proposal that we have, and it's going back to the drawing board But since we have these people here, we'd like them to speak, like to give them a chance to speak, knowing that what they're speaking about is something that doesn't exist yet. So the old one is gone. The new one hasn't arrived. But I agree with Craig. This is a good time to allow people who've taken time out of their day to come talk to us. So I guess we don't have for or against, just people talking.
You could organize it for or against. It's really up to you.
But we're not for or against any particular thing right now.
We
No.
technically are.
Oh, technically are.
This
Okay.
public hearing is to hear comments specifically on this regulation. And I just
Okay.
wanted a point of clarification is that the old regulations have not been tossed because this regulation was intended to be a repeal and
Okay,
replace. So
right.
the conversation tonight is that the existing regulations that have been in place for several, I think over a decade and a half are going to remain on the books. However, your new proposal, which you can hear comment on, and maybe we're reading the public comment, maybe folks will really like the changes. I don't think so. But when you're having a public hearing, you really need to keep it within the scope of the proposal that is before you, the specific regulations that are before the commission. If the commission were to have
technically, they're addressing the one that we're not gonna.
well,
use.
you have to vote under old business to withdraw.
Yes.
So that is
Yep.
for the full commission to
Right.
decide.
Okay.
I will make one point that if you were to have a public information session, that is where some of this workshopping, this dialogue can occur. In a public hearing, there's no dialogue between the commission and the audience. So there's just points of clarification. The commission is not allowed during this public hearing to discuss the merits of the application. So that's just the legal proceedings that it's my job as staff to make sure that I articulate that.
So the bottom line is, come talk to us. Okay, who wants to go first? Yes, sir.
Guys doing today? Thank you for hearing us today. I really appreciate the response.
So everyone, just for the record, we need you to start with your name and address, please.
It's James Bankston, 425
Thank
North
you.
Eagleville Road. I wanted to thank everybody here for responding to the community's desires to have this change looked at again, because it's restrictive, right? And where does that start? Where does that stop? When you start restricting, especially in this type of a community, where does that actually stop? And so that's really what these people are about. And so I think that after what we had with the COVID, where they shut everybody's business down except for the big businesses, no, we're done with that. We're done being regulated needlessly, in our opinion, with things that, you know what, this is a 15, like this lady here, Mrs. Kaufman, was very nice enough to point that out. This is an older regulation that they're trying to repeal. It's not just the roosters, it's a couple of other things with some other larger type animals and stuff. But the smell of chicken poop is horrible. But everybody here likes the smell of cow poop probably, or horse poop. And we all put up with that type of stuff. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, if somebody was to start their chainsaw, that would be not cool, right? We have regulations for 8 o'clock. But roosters don't play by those same rules. And when you live next to a rooster or your neighbors or something, that's what this is, okay? We don't want to have it so that, in my opinion, that the newer people that are coming into the town are saying, well, this is bothering me. Okay, I grew up in Boston. I can't go to Boston and sleep there because of every night. It's the same thing all night, ambulances and fire trucks, and I just can't do it. But a rooster who lives right across the street from my house does not bother me. The cows don't bother me. I live right next to the green farm, and those animals are pretty freaking loud, I'll be honest with you. And I like it. I do. I like the ruralness of the area. And I'm sorry that some people are bothered by that, because I can understand where if a chicken, or I'm sorry, a rooster was close enough to my window, where that would be bothering me, especially if I would like to get fresh air or something like that, right? But I think that, and as far as the health concerns go, I think that the time-tested way that the people that raise animals in this community have the vets come out to their place or they bring their animals to the vets. Let those folks depend on what's healthy and not. Let's not regulate what the vets can decide. The vets will tell those things. You got too many chickens. You got a sick horse. You can't do that. But let the vets do that, not you folks. You folks are here to make sure that people don't abuse those things, abuse those, in my opinion. And you all seem like very responsive to the community. And I wanted to thank you all for that, okay? Thank you all.
Thank you. Who's next? Yeah, go ahead.
The only one?
Aaron Bowman, 861 Middle Turnpike. I'm here to raise serious legal concern about the proposed zoning change that would prohibit residents from keeping roosters on smaller lots less than 120,000 square feet. This proposal likely conflicts with the Connecticut Right to Farm Act, CGS 19A-341, which protects individuals who engage in agricultural, including raising poultry, from being classified as a nuisance, as long as their activity follows generally accepted agricultural practices and not neglect. State law shields it from local interference. Under Connecticut General State Statute 1-1Q, poultry keeping is explicitly included in Connecticut legal definition of agricultural. That means Mansfield's proposed regulation would effectively prohibit a practice that state law protects, particularly for small-scale farmers and homesteaders who rely on roosters for not only breeding, but sustainability or even possible pest control. The Connecticut Department of Agriculture and the Connecticut Farmers Bureau both stress that local ordinance must not conflict with the state's right to farm protection. Imposing an arbitrary 2.75 acres or 3-acre minimum unfairly discriminates against residents with smaller lots and may constitute a de facto nullification of their state rights. A great man once said, "The life of a nation is secured only while a nation is honest, truthful, and virtuous." That would be Frederick Douglass. We must not pass local laws that contradict state statutes and undermine the liberty of our neighbors and lawful use of their land. I respectfully request this commission to withdraw, which it sounds like you are, or revise this proposal and consult with legal counsel to ensure compliance with state law. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
William Paulson, 521 Middle Turnpike in Stuart, Connecticut. I'm just curious, are we talking about the roosters, what's causing the problem? I'm a little confused. Does anybody know, Mr. Speaker?
Well, this proposed has to do with chickens and other larger animals of all kinds. Yeah, not just roosters. Yeah.
So what you're saying is if you have more than 2 chickens, you can't have them? Just trying to ask. I don't know nothing about this other than.
Why don't you explain to us what you would like?
Well, I'm hearing with the people saying, they spoke about the roosters, okay?
Yeah.
No, my son lives next to me.
Okay, here we go. So, small poultry.
You have to share it.
Oh, yeah. Can you see it up there?
I believe we're sharing for people online. You can see this? Yes, nod, heads in agreement. Perfect.
So there's 8 birds per 0 to 20,000 square feet lot, 16 birds per 40,000 square foot lot. So yeah, definitely more than 2.
So that, and those, well, Yeah, we'll do a little points of clarification, but those animal densities have not changed from, that's how it's always been in or for the past 1.5 decades. What has changed is roosters not being permitted on less than 120,000 square feet. But and then there is a way you can, and Michael, if you just, can you read that?
Yes, so the proposed change, the small poultry density, this is how it's been for 15 years. There was a slight change here to clarify a previous commission determination that lots smaller than 40,000 square feet could still have birds, just at a scaled down density. That came to you last year, I believe, commissioners. The proposed change was that roosters would not be permitted on lots less than 120,000 square feet, with the addendum that residents can apply for a zoning permit for the keeping of roosters on less than 120,000 square feet. The permit will be granted by the zoning agent based on site-specific characteristics of the lot and upon consultation with the animal control officer.
Okay, so what you're saying,
So we have to keep
So
this
if we want to, if this really, this dialogue back and forth is best, no, I know, is really meant for a public information session where we could kind of go through and sort of workshop these regulations to see what makes sense. What we're just kind of highlighting the overall changes. And I will say a zoning permit, the cost of a zoning permit would be $85, and you'd come in and that would be under 120,000 square feet. We would make sure that the lot is, you're not going to be having major, the rooster's not going to be crowing in the neighbor's 10 feet from the neighbor's window. And then
so if I take and pay $85, I can have a rooster?
No, you have to have someone review it, and then you might be able to.
No problem. That's no problem.
Yeah.
Because the area where my son lives has always been farmland. The farmland's been always up through there. So it's $85, you say?
So this is the proposal, and again,
I'm
this is
just
the
asking.
proposal that folks are very, I think a lot of you are all here because you've found some things that you do not like about, but this is
Well,
what is on
okay.
the table right now for consideration.
This is technically on the table, but it may be off the table very shortly. So we'd rather hear what you would like to
Well,
see in the next
I
version.
would love my son to keep his rooster
Okay.
and his chickens he's got,
And
okay?
how many square feet does he have?
What's an acre? So what is that?
1 acre. Okay, so he has
40,000,
45.
40,000,
43.5-ish.
43,000 acres,
But
43,000
the
square.
property lines is more or less, so I don't know where that comes in. But anyways, he's got his
Okay.
chickens, he's got kids, he uses the eggs for feed, which he's had for a long time. He maintains them. There has never been an excuse of anybody in the park saying anything about it. I live right there, I don't hear, all I'm saying is I am dead set against that.
Okay. so-
That is the
so-
most ridiculous thing.
Okay, so would your recommendation be that the minimum be 43,000 square feet? What would be your recommendation? Leave it the way it was.
Yeah.
Okay, 40,000.
Okay.
Let's make sure, sir, if you want to come back up and say that after Mr. Paulson walks away. No, you have passion. Your passion is good. It's good that we have so much passion. We just, because of the format that this is being held in, if you want to come back and just say exactly what you said with the passion you had before, with your name
My
Oh,
and
name is James Pinkston, 425 North Eagleville Road. And what this sounds to me like, the 43,000, look, there's buildings on there and they're going to minus that. And so that if we start with the 40,000, because that's what they're going to look at. And so then it's still going to be for $80, you get somebody to come out there and tell you whether you can or not. And so you're going from having the ability to do it to having to pay to have somebody tell you whether you can do it or not. And I think that is the part that most people are going to disagree with.
Okay, thank you. Duly noted.
Mr. Chair, can I make one
Yes.
point? I do encourage the public to really stick to this specific regulation and not to have a dialogue, because that's not the format of a public hearing. That would be if we change and we move towards this public information,
Yeah,
a more
okay.
informal situation.
But please come up and tell us what you think. Yes.
Yes, good evening. My name is Paul Tanner. I've been a 30-year resident of Mansfield. I have a 2-acre lot and I have a flock of chickens and a rooster. And I just wanted to give you a sense of some of the other upsides of having a chicken flock. If I don't have a rooster, I can't have a flock because of the predation with coyotes and foxes, et cetera, et cetera. So they come as a package deal, in my opinion. And sure, I get nutrition from the animals, from their eggs and their meat. But they also give me some solace about the potential for wildfires, because they do process the underbrush and leaves around my property. It's very important because they eat up the combustibles and make it into soil, essentially. And also the leaves, the leaves from the fall, by the spring they're processed and they turn into soil that I use at my property and also at a church garden that I tend with children. So it's for me, if I don't have a rooster, I don't have a flock. And I've been like I've said, I've had chickens for over 30 years, and it's just part of my lifestyle here in town that I want to preserve. So thank you for listening.
Do you have a recommendation for a size for us?
I don't.
Okay.
Question, that aside from the rooster, do the numbers on here make sense for the number of chickens? Could you scroll up a little?
To be honest, it's the first time I've seen this. I'm just responding to a flyer that a citizen sent to me today. I don't at this time, but I'll participate in a working session if you'll have me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Ma'am. Sorry. My eyesight's bad.
I was behind multiple sirs, so that might have made it harder to see me too. I've got my comments on my phone, so I'm going to pull them up. I'm Erin Richter. I live at 494 Wormwood Hill Road. Let me find the right comments. As it stands, this zoning policy change seems to be a solution in search of a problem. With commercial egg prices rising, many would want to turn to local egg production or chicken ownership themselves to decrease the cost of their groceries. This policy would effectively limit the viability of that strategy and would harm Mansfield permanent residents as a result. There are also multiple scholarly articles identifying the benefits of mass chicken ownership to municipalities. The research would suggest that greater chicken ownership should be encouraged, as this would reduce the generated kitchen waste that gets moved into our trash collection. Aside from those things, I'd also like to point out, myself personally, I grew up in Iowa. The first time I ever lived inside of a city limit was when I moved to college. I went to a land-grant university. I went to Iowa State University for all of my college education. And part of why my spouse and I chose Mansfield and wanted to move to this town when we moved to Connecticut was because of the agricultural emphasis that the town has. To deny your residents that ability to continue to engage in agriculture on small scale just seems antithetical to the purpose of the town and also to the purpose of having a land-grant university here in town. UConn is a land-grant institution. Its purpose is supposed to be agriculture, and it doesn't make sense for the town to impair the ability of its citizens to engage in agriculture.
I'm going to ask you to specifically, what about this is concerning to you?
So I myself keep chickens, and similar to the comment previous to mine, part of what you need in this location, if you're going to keep chickens, is some form of protection for them from predators, both aerial and land. I have a big enough lot that I keep a livestock guardian dog, both for my chickens and also for some goats that I have. But beyond that, aerial predators will get my birds, and that's part of why I need to keep roosters.
Okay, so it's really the rooster part of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not that, like, I don't understand why you would want to live in an agricultural area if you don't enjoy agricultural sounds. And roosters are one of those sounds. I'm delighted by roosters. And I mean, there's areas of town you can live where you wouldn't have to hear roosters.
So do you have a size that you would recommend, a minimum size?
I mean, I feel like as the statute stands now is an appropriate size. It seems like the right
Okay.
number of birds per space to be
Okay,
able to
so-
deal with the waste production as well as.
So any type of bird, so 8 of 0 to 20,000, regardless of hen or. okay,
Right, yeah.
okay.
And I mean, part of it also is trusting residents to be good neighbors. If you're gonna keep a rooster, don't put it right on the edge of your property line. If you're gonna keep roosters, you should be someone who enjoys them and don't mind hearing them, and don't put them too close to your neighbors, and your neighbors shouldn't get too mad. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I am William Paulson, Junior, 527 Middle Turnpike. I am not a public speaker. So I figured what I'd do would just throw out some punchlines of some things that, I guess, just listening to everybody here, what I'm hearing is acreage and chickens. This many acres, this many chickens. But the reality is nature finds a way. Can't increase your acreage, but your flock is going to get increased by just natural things, right? So my father mentioned earlier, I have chickens. My family has had chickens for over 100 years. In fact, many people don't know, but there's a porch that's connected to my house. It was an original chicken coop. It just sided. But it was the old school way of, the old grandma didn't want to go out in her moo-moo to go get the eggs, 100 feet away. She just went into the other room, and that's how she got her eggs. So that's been a tradition for me as long as I can remember, is raising chickens. And I've been here in Mansfield for, I'm in my 50s, mid-50s. But back to the point that nature finds a way is, I feel like if you tell me how to control not just the roosters, but chickens in general, that you're going to say, okay, this many acres, you can only have 8 birds. Okay, so maybe 8 birds means I get enough eggs, at least for the majority of the year, because as most people that have chickens know, as the light gets reduced, you get less eggs. So yeah, I might get an egg every day from each one of those chickens. As they get older, they don't lay every day. And then a certain percentage of the year, there's less sun. So you might get 4 eggs a day, 3 eggs a day, right? And if I sit there and I'm saying, okay, every day I'm counting my birds, and one day I see one less bird, I start stressing, okay, based on Mansfield's rule, I'm down a bird, how can I get a bird? Well, I can't go to Tractor Supply because you have to buy 6 birds in a purchase. You can't just buy 1 chicken or whatever. And I've also purchased from Tractor Supply in the past, and I'll get 6 birds, and 3 of them are roosters. There's nothing I can do about that, right? And at that point, you can't bring them back. Hey, I got a rooster, 4 months ago, and you don't get your money back. Oh well, sayonara. But if I'm focused on this idea of acreage and chickens, and again, I don't have 100 birds. I have a small farm. If I start losing a chicken, I'm going to be stressed, right? And then I go out one morning and I see a red fox running one of my chickens off the property. Okay, now I'm down 2. Oh, there's a hawk. Got another one, right? One, I need the roosters to protect the flock. And 2, that if out of those chickens that disappeared, that I thought maybe a fox got it, maybe a coyote, maybe a hawk, And 21 days later, there she is in the lawn with baby chicks under her belly. Now I'm really stressed because I would look at it as a beautiful thing. It's a broody hen. She's doing what, God intended her to do. And now I'm stressed because I might be over the number for the town of Mansfield. It's a lot of stress in the numbers. Again, nature's just going to find a way one or another.
So let me ask you a question. And if you were writing that square there,
Yeah.
well, how would you write it?
I trust the public officials, but I think the best direction to go is don't listen to somebody with a fancy tie that's never farmed. Listen to all of us who are farmers, and
No,
you're right.
we're listening.
as
We're
far as
listening.
me go,
We're listening.
don't
and
know.
I'm giving you the opportunity to
Yeah.
write that square that's to the, you see the
what
small
I'm saying
poultry?
is, for me personally, what I'm going to realize the changes that I, as a resident, as a human being, needs to make is based on my neighbors. I don't have 100 chickens. I may have 20. But eventually, and I'm calculating these numbers because I'm looking for a certain amount of egg production from my family. So if I get to the point, again, old hen, she's not laying anymore. Bad number? No, I don't.
Okay,
really wanna
I
do that.
understand
Okay.
completely your situation. What would you write in that square?
What-
Nothing? Because that's
I
a
wouldn't know how to
possibility.
define
No,
it. What I'm
no-
saying is, I personally don't think
restrictions.
there should
Are
be
you in favor of no restrictions at all?
no restrictions.
Okay, then that's the answer. No restrictions at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
I am.
all right.
Hello.
Hello
Diane
again.
Dorfer, 87 Bassett's Bridge Road. I am also a member of Ag Committee, but I am here today speaking on my own behalf. I run Cobblestone Farm, small scale diversified vegetable. I know Ag Committee is interested in addressing all of this before us, but there's another issue that is not currently addressed within zoning at all right now that I think needs to be addressed. It's something that we've been dealing with in our neighborhood for so long. It's like a little hard to be concise, but the big picture is that as of October 1st of last year, per Connecticut Public Act number 2459, bill number 292, no person shall use, sell, or offer for sale in this state as a soil amendment any biosolids or wastewater sludge that contain PFAS. And I'm reading that from a letter from Wyndham Waterworks that was sent out to, I believe, all towns within their watershed. This letter we have through a resident of Chaplin, but I'm going to read the whole thing now. Dear town leaders, this is relevant because we are dealing with a sizable amount of PFAS contaminated biosolids in Mansfield Hollow. So I'm going to kind of try to frame this for you a little bit. And I feel like reading this letter helps this whole thing be a little more concise. So, dear town leaders, and this is from Tyler Johnson, the environmental technician from Wyndham Waterworks, and I feel like it's fine to be reading this because I know it was sent publicly. This letter is regarding 2 recent PFAS biosolids related investigations currently occurring.
Could you explain the PFAS for
Yep,
people?
I'll get to
people might
that.
Not know
Yep.
what that is. Yeah.
In the Willimantic Reservoir watershed. As you should be aware, PFAS, which is per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, are a group of man-made chemicals used in a wide range of products and known for their environmental and health risks. Biosolids are created from treated sewage sludges that are being used as fertilizers or soil conditioners generated from wastewater treatment facilities. In our case, the material is coming from, oh gosh, it's coming from Massachusetts. It's like the Mass, New Hampshire kind of watershed water treatment zone. Sorry. Anyway, these biosolid pellet fertilizers are dark in color and almost resemble asphalt from a distance. Since biosolids are a result of wastewater treatment, the unique smell is that of human fecal matter. PFAS has been linked to the following health conditions in humans: cancer, liver damage, thyroid disease, immune system dysfunction, reproductive health problems, developmental problems, along with other things such as increased cholesterol level, hormone imbalances, and increased risk of cardiovascular disease. PFAS is extremely resistant to degradation, thus why it received the name Forever Chemicals. If you would like to provide your residents with more information, you can find information at general CDC or EPA websites. So again, that state statute, October 1st, it has been brought to our attention by concerned residents, neighbors, schools, and farmers, many of whom are in the room tonight, that there have been multiple purchases and applications of biosolids which contain PFAS within our watershed. The ongoing investigations right now are due to farmers applying these biosolid-based pellet fertilizers to their farmlands, as well as mixing these biosolids in with gravel to reclaim land. We would like you to be aware that the use of these biosolid materials could not only affect surface water, which we use for drinking water for Willimantic and Mansfield residents, but it also has the potential to contaminate aquifers and private wells near these land applications. We intend to work diligently with the USDA on correcting these issues, as well as work in developing an outreach program to keep our farmers up to date with rules and regulations, along with good housekeeping practices.
So this is something you like to add to the agriculture regulations?
Yeah, I'm here giving you I'm reading this letter to give you context, right? And I feel like, so by statute, as of October 1st last year, biosolids with PFAS in them, which is essentially any biosolids, like anything coming from a wastewater treatment plant is going to have PFAS in it. It's just like the nature of the game. By statute, no one should be using them in any way as a soil amendment, but that has been happening in town. And so I've estimated that since September, when our neighborhood started contacting different entities within the town and the state, like if I think I'm paying myself $40 an hour, like I'm self-employed, my time really is like income for me, right? So the amount of time I've spent on this is like easily $6,500, just talking with neighbors, doing research, talking to people within the town, DEEP, DOAG, Attorney General's office, Wyndham Waterworks, and we still haven't really gotten anywhere. Like this issue was also happening in Chaplin, and that material did get removed. But here, that has not happened.
What do you think needs to be done? What in terms of regulations?
In terms of regulations, I think it just needs to be abundantly clear through, I mean, it's in state statute, but these materials are still being delivered.
So is it more of
And-
an enforcement issue? Is that what you're?
It's like all sides, right? And so in terms of a regulatory issue for the town, if this language were included in town regs, then it would just give the option of hopefully more immediate response, because
Now,
as it
you're on the
stands,
agriculture committee, right?
I am.
Yeah, so why don't you write that up for us
Mhm.
and send it back to us?
All right.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Lee Dunbar, 498 Wormwood Hill Road. I'm just going to address what seems to be your problem here. Okay, and in my mind, it's the square footage is not the way to go. I would just take that right out. And just look at get right down to what's the problem here? Okay, is it a noise issue? Is it a pollution issue? What are the issues? My sense is, having lived here for almost 50 years now, is that there might be a few complaints here and there. But not everybody that's raising chickens is causing a problem, or horses or pigs or anything else. So to make it like a one size fits all, 4,000 square feet over here is not the same thing as 4,000 square feet over here. So what I would suggest you consider as you revise these regulations is to perhaps look at problem resolution when they come up, and consider this to be more of a guideline, and say, okay, here's a guideline. One animal per 40,000 square feet. That's just a guideline. So sort of somebody new comes in and say, you're pretty good in that range. But if it's a problem, then I think, unfortunately, it's like your P&Z officer is going to have to go out and try to resolve it. And, perhaps rely on some agricultural expertise, whether that's the farm, whoever that may be. It's certainly not me. And it's most likely not anybody that's sitting in front of me. Maybe behind me, but not in front of me. So I would suggest maybe you can take a look at that. But what I don't like the one size fits all square footage per bird approach. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Oh,
Hello, my name is Melanie Desch. I live on 40 Woods Road. And I am also on the Agriculture Committee, so I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Agriculture Committee. I know you have already received the referral to withdraw the proposed amendments, and I would just like to reaffirm what that's about. So the Ag Committee in our meeting, we did unanimously agree that we would propose to not have a ban on roosters at all, because roosters are an important part of the keeping of livestock and chickens. We also proposed some amendments to the existing regulations, such as the square footage chart, and are exploring alternatives with the help of the Farm Bureau, Department of Agriculture, New Connecticut Farmers Alliance, Rich Meinard, who's a nutrient management expert at UConn. So we're really looking to both the experts and also hearing input from the public and from the farmers in our town. The issue is not just concerning livestock. We also think that some of these proposed amendments did restrict farming in other ways, such as increasing setbacks for some farm stands, maintaining some setbacks for livestock structures, and also differentiating between accessory use of agriculture and commercial agriculture based on lot size. of 5 acres and above or 5 acres and below. And we're recommending also to just not make that clarification because a farm can be a farm on any size lot. And yeah, I just wanted to reassert our proposal to withdraw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Matthew Lissy. I live at 89 Mansfield Hollow Road. I have a bachelor's degree in biology and a PhD in ecology, but I got a lot of common sense by working with, like a lot of the people I heard speak today have a lot of common sense. They've been around it their whole life, and I've been the same. I moved up to the northeast corner. This was always my dream when we moved to Connecticut to live up here, and to live in Mansfield right next to UConn was like some kind of fantasy come true. The ag-friendly nature of the town was what attracted me to it. And with agriculture comes freedom. Ag is bad for the environment, right? You take mature forest and you're growing crops, but ag is necessary for us as human beings so we can live. So you try to find a nice balance and you try to live sustainably. I'm also on the sustainability committee here in Mansfield, although I'm not speaking on their behalf tonight, but I will be bringing this up with them as well. Having backyard chickens is probably one of the most sustainable things we can do in town. You have to understand, a couple hundred years ago, all of us in this room would have had backyard chickens. They wouldn't have been called backyard chickens. It would have just been chickens, and nobody would have thought about it. And with chickens comes roosters, right? You have to have the rooster, and roosters protect the chickens from hawks. I cannot legally touch a hawk. None of us can. They are protected. But a rooster can, and a rooster will fight to the death to protect its hens. And I've done this experiment, I have lots of data on this. I have chickens myself. I have enough land where a lot of these regulations won't matter, but I'm here speaking on the moral and ethical side of this because I don't agree with what was being proposed. I don't think it's equitable. I don't think it's fair for lower income people. I don't think it's right to charge $85 for a permit for somebody who just wants to have a couple birds and be able to sustain themselves. And with a male rooster, you can, and a couple chickens, you get more chickens. And you can sustain yourself. You're not dependent upon corporations and the corporate everything you got to pay into the system. That has to stop. We need some freedom. When you buy chickens, even if you buy all hens, you're liable to get roosters. It's just the way the sexing isn't 100% accurate. It's less than that. So you're going to have some. These become also people's pets. Chickens are sweethearts, most of them. Roosters, not so much, it depends, but you know, I've even got a couple of super sweet roosters, but it's just the way it is. But again, you know, you've raised these things from little on, and you have to order like 30 at a time if you get a mail order so they can stay warm in transit. So to say that we want to get rid of roosters, that's not the way our world is. Our world's not like that, unfortunately, or fortunately. What I would recommend, you've asked the question, so what would you recommend? I agree with what somebody said. I wouldn't have a square footage thing on there. I let people handle it with common sense, which I know isn't necessarily common anymore, but neighbors, I have roosters. I don't keep them outside. I went to all my neighbors before I got them, even though I was legally allowed to have them. I went to all my neighbors and asked, do you mind? Are you offended by hearing roosters? Is that upsetting? That kind of thing. And none of them were. They said, oh no, we love it and everything. I still keep my roosters in the barn in the evening. And so I don't have issues where there is. What I would recommend for this committee, and if you come up with things, is to have a list of best practices. That I love that word. I hear all the time in town, best practices. Why not come up with best practices on a website, right? Have those available as recommendations, but you don't need to legally like lay the hammer down on the citizens all the time. And if there is a problem or an issue, you'd have to have some kind of, maybe even a committee that would hear that. The animal control people in town are wonderful people, very knowledgeable people too. They would be a huge resource too on being able to assess that. I heard people say, talk to veterinarians. I have a farm vet that comes out for my animals, and they look through everything and they make recommendations, and I'm able to ask them. That's an annual thing that it's always ongoing. So there's all that time for information. Unfortunately, we do have people that move into town and then they want to change the town, and they don't want it to be what they moved into, which is kind of puzzling. With egg costs going up as much as $10 a dozen recently, that's insanity. I don't even know how to wrap my head around that. So think of a family. I have a family of 5. I have 3 kids, and we're trying to feed everybody. And one of our things is breakfast for dinner we make because we have all these chicken eggs. And so I haven't bought eggs. I can't tell you the last time I bought eggs, probably in like, I really can't tell you. It's been that long. Almost the whole time I've lived in Connecticut, I haven't bought eggs, but still so by restricting and I don't want to repeat what other people said about flock size. Flock size isn't so easy to manage. It has to do with the age of the bird. It has to do with how many birds. It has to do with time of the year. There's all these components that go into flock size. It's not so easy to say X amount of square foot per bird and just call it a day. That's not really how it happens. I've done the experiments. When you don't have roosters out with your hens, you get 1 week. 1 week of beautiful free-range chickens. You hear like those musical things in the air when you walk around. It's so beautiful. And then all of a sudden on the beginning of week 2, you lose a bird. And you'll lose a bird every single day until you lock your birds up again. And that's if you don't have the roosters out with them. All right. There are other ways you can reduce. I don't want to get into that here. I'd be happy to talk about that at another time. I'm trying to be brief, but brevity isn't my strong suit. This town has always been susceptible to people buying up houses and turning them into rentals. And at some point, you don't even have a town anymore. You just have a bunch of people that don't live here, that own property, that rent to other people. And by putting in more regulations, I don't think is the right answer for Mansfield. I think freedom and agricultural freedom is the correct answer for Mansfield. And again, I think there's ways that, if there was a conflict with somebody, well, maybe you could suggest, hey, would it be possible to lock your roosters up at night so they don't make noise that's disturbing a neighbor? I'm assuming that's what one of the complaints are. But again, I've never heard anybody complaining about roosters in Mansfield, and I've asked. So that's not saying I've asked everybody. So the other thing I heard was that in the opening comments that you wanted to minimize neighborhood impacts. And I find that striking, and based on what Diane Dorfer has said, my neighborhood has been. I can speak to what she said about the human manure being shipped in. It was spontaneously combusting all summer long. Waves of smoke would come across your land and choke you. You couldn't breathe outside. You had to go inside for fresh air. And even then, it's a historic district, so you would end up choking even on that. I'm seeing my own kids waking up in the middle of the night choking. They said they can't breathe, and I hear my boys wheezing in their lungs because it was coming in their windows, even though the window was closed. And the town knew about it. Michael and Jennifer, everybody knew about it. And yet nothing happened. And October 1st, it was illegal to use this stuff, not just to ship it in. Anybody shipping it in, that's illegal. Anybody using it, that's illegal. Spreading it is illegal. It shouldn't be done. And now it's in our water. Now it's going to be in the water. It's being spread all over the land. And here we are in Mansfield, who's supposed to be sustainable, who's supposed to be environmentally friendly. And I'm so disappointed in the town that this is happening. And then I wasn't going to come here and speak about that. And then I see all of a sudden now we're getting rid of roosters. We're putting human waste and PFASs all over Mansfield Hollow. And hey, nobody cares. I'm not breathing it, so it doesn't matter what those people in the hollow are. There's people with asthma getting asthma attacks and everything. I'm sorry, I came up and I have 2 different total comments, right? Roosters and PFAS. But yeah, the Eastern Island Health District knew about it too. They're all shrugging their shoulders. Meanwhile, here they go. October 1st, state statute. That supersedes anything the town wants to say. And yet here we go. So yeah, I think that sums up everything I was going to say. There's less and less families moving into Mansfield. We've seen the number of kids in our schools. The numbers are decreasing. unfortunately. And I don't think more regulations on animals and agricultural freedom is the answer. I do think protecting people and protecting them from harmful forever chemicals like PFASs, I think that is the answer. That's where everybody, Michael, I would suggest to you, I know you're in a private conversation there, but I would suggest you guys all stop worrying about roosters and start worrying about this serious, well-documented health threats of PFASs in our environment that is happening in Mansfield, and we're all sitting here watching it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Sandkoff, who has been directly involved with the PFAS issue, and he's been monitoring that, as we all have, with our health department, with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, and the Department of Agriculture. But Michael has been most recently involved, so he wants to just
Sure.
make a
Very briefly.
point of consolation.
Very briefly.
Michael.
We can't do that. That's the exact thing we can't do. Just very briefly, the primary enforcement mechanism for this, since the town initially received reports, is through the Eastern Highland Health District. The Eastern Highland Health District began investigating, my understanding was in September of 2024, following reports coming in from neighbors. They have all of their inspection records, which are available. At the most recent meeting I was in with them, which included Wyndham Waterworks and some folks from the state, various enforcement arms from the state. There was a discussion on what's going on, where is the guidance, who should be testing for what, when all that's expected to happen, because these agencies are having these conversations. I'm trying to stay appraised. As the wetlands agent, it's important for me to know these things, that all of this is available, that there are efforts being taken. The enforcement is supposed to come through DEP and the health district. So all of that is available with the health district. I had a conversation with the health director in the hallway today. He was telling me there were updates about what's being removed and where things will be moved to in order to make sure that there is compliance. The enforcement for this exists above the wetlands impact level because it's a different kind of pollution thing. But I do want to note that this is active and ongoing. This is something that has been taken seriously, and we're not ignoring it. We are aware of it, but it is a concern in terms of people are worried about PFAS, and the state is taking it seriously. There's recommended guidance that they're developing at this moment. So whether or not biosolids with PFAS could be included in this regulation and banned at the town level, I think regulation of pollution is something we would have to check in with the town attorney, but
We can certainly reference it. However, I think sometimes people think that zoning can cure all ills. We have you can go to 8-2 of the Connecticut General Statutes, and you can look at what we have jurisdiction over. So it's very frustrating for many people when something like this is happening to them. We are very concerned about it. We've raised it where our office was informed of this. We've raised the issue with the appropriate entities that have the jurisdiction of over PFAS. And we're monitoring the progress, but it is not something that is under zoning jurisdiction, which I know is not a popular thing for someone to hear, but the health department is on it, and they're doing what they can do.
Okay, any more rooster talk? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Ann Bladen, 88 Mansfield Hollow Road. No rooster things. I love the roosters that live across the street from me. I just would like to say that as the PFAS thing, this has been a huge issue, and it's really disappointing to hear that the neighborhood has not been kept up to date with all of this. As someone who has written emails, who has called and has been blown off repeatedly by the town manager and the health department and told that there was nothing wrong, the smell would dissipate. It's really frustrating to know that this is happening and no one has contacted anyone in our neighborhood to share that information. Our health is affected, our daily life is affected. And I would think just as a matter of courtesy that it would be important to the town to reach out to the people who are being directly affected by this every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I see a hand back there. Yeah.
I'm Catherine Mercado. I live at 879 Warrenville Road in Mansfield. I'm speaking tonight. My husband is joined me. He's outside in the hall with my 2.5-year-old and 10-month-old. Why? Because this affects our entire family. This doesn't affect just me. It doesn't affect just him. It affects our family and the community as a whole. And I believe that this proposed change is a step backwards in our community efforts towards sustainability, conscious animal keeping, and fostering local food resilience. At its core, this proposal undermines the very principles of sustainability that are so vital in the world today. Raising chickens provides an opportunity for families to participate in local sustainable food system. Small homestead poultry keeping reduces reliance on industrial agriculture, which often comes with a large carbon footprint due to transportation, processing, and waste. By keeping our own chickens in our own backyards, it's an excellent chickens in our own backyards, consuming food scraps that would otherwise end up in landfills, further contributing towards our community's sustainable goals. There is an inherent value in teaching children about where their food comes from, about the care required for animals, and about the cycles of nature. This proposal limits the ability to keep chickens and would sever a valuable learning experience from my children. Responsible chicken and rooster keeping is not only about food production, but also about treating animals with respect and compassion. Many of us who raise chickens do so with a deep understanding of their need for space, care, and social interaction. When done thoughtfully, keeping chickens can enrich the lives of both the animals and the people involved. Commercial animals can live horrific lives. Our backyard chickens don't live that life. Our family's meat chickens live wonderful lives on pasture and have one bad day. Can we say that about commercial agriculture? For many, including our family, it is a way of engaging in ethical practices that align with our values of self-sufficiency and conscious consumption. Ultimately, restricting the ability to keep roosters would not only limit personal freedoms, but also hinder community efforts to become more sustainable. I urge you to seek less restrictive farming practices for the town of Mansfield, not more.
Could you help us write that lower right-hand box?
I would urge you to not put anything in that box.
No restrictions.
No restrictions, because you can keep meat chickens in a tractor and have it's 10 by 8 and you can have 30 birds in that tractor and you're moving them twice a day to green pasture, but they're not taking up very much space.
Okay, so even if you have a lot of
So there's a
10,000 square
difference
feet,
between chickens that you're going to use oftentimes, and you can be for both, but oftentimes you have a difference between the amount of space needed for meat chickens that live relatively short lives in the summer and are processed. We're not overwintering our meat birds.
so you're saying no matter how small the lot, there should be no restrictions.
That's correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm so sorry. I have one more point about the roosters that she just reminded me of. Thank you very much. So I get where you guys are coming from. You want to figure out a square foot thing. It makes sense. Logically, that would make sense. And here all of us bird keepers are trying to tell you like that doesn't make sense. And it's hard for us to get a point across why. I will tell you this. This is self-regulating. And here's why. Because the smaller your lot, the more feed you have to buy for your chickens. Feed is expensive. Your flock starts getting too big, you have to buy too much feed, and you say, I'm not willing to spend that much on feed. So then you cut back on your flock size. You don't replace as many. And it's not an exact science. It takes a while for a family to figure out what their needs are. Meat birds, you might have 30 meat birds in a beautiful tractor setup like she was talking that move through the land. They're not over the land for very long, and then they move to the next little piece. So those birds might have a very short life. Those might be, I don't even know if it's 6, 8 weeks, 6 months. I mean, your meat birds are gone. They're not around anymore. So it's it's incredible. You actually have to watch how fast you feed them, because they can actually start like dropping over of a heart attack because they just can't, their heart can't keep up. But the whole point is this. The meat birds aren't, even though there might be a lot of birds, number-wise, they're not around very long. Egg birds are around much longer. And that's why it's so hard to say how many birds per whatever, because somebody may have a little tiny yard, get in 30 birds, and they're these little tiny things you can hold in your hand. And then by the time they're this big, which is just weeks, a number of weeks later, then they're being taken to the slaughterhouse. And it's true, by going locally and doing this locally, you're not fulfilling the petroleum companies. The birds eat insects, so now you don't have to put pesticides down, which are many times made with petroleum. You now don't need to buy fertilizer and get that in and throw that all over your lawn. Inorganic fertilizer, which was one of the major causes of eutrophication and things like that. We don't have to do that anymore because the chickens are just dropping, and it goes into the soil, and it's all organic, and then the natural creatures. It's amazing what they can do. But I wanted to also thank you all for your time. I don't know if I got to thank everybody, and I really appreciate you guys listening to all of us tonight. And I really appreciate you giving the community time to speak on the things that are most passionate to us. And thank you and I hope you'll continue to make Mansfield a great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe Mansfield can become a beacon of hope. So in Chaplin, a bastion of common sense. So in Chaplin, for example, you can't have a rooster on less than 80,000 square feet. And in Ashford, you can't have a rooster on less than 80,000 square feet. So Mansfield could become a mecca for those people escaping those restrictions in Chaplin and Ashford.
The last 15 years, those restrictions have been in place, as opposed to newer restrictions from Ashford.
I looked them up today. Chaplin is 80,000 square feet. Ashford is 2 acres, which is actually 86,000 square feet.
When were these?
I don't know. They're in effect right now.
This is hard for people online. We do have some people
Yeah,
online. If we're
yeah,
going back
okay.
and forth with it's
Yeah,
okay.
you gotta come up.
May I?
Gotta
May I?
come up
We'll
and start moving
talk
here.
about stuff.
Okay, yes, sir. Your
My
name.
name's Paul Stern. I live at 614 Stores Road.
Okay.
I'm a member of the Affordable Housing Committee, but I'm not speaking on their behalf for sure. First of all, I want to thank you for your listening and for your patience, because it's not an easy thing to hear people out. And I can't really add a lot. I would do away with the lower right-hand box completely. And this notion of 3 acres as the cutoff point between having a zoning permit for a rooster and not is to me a very extreme move. Most of the properties in Mansfield are smaller than 3 acres. There aren't a lot of them that are bigger. And I don't even know how you would enforce that or handle on a practical basis that if 400 people showed up at the zoning office and said, I want to pay $85 for a rooster that I haven't gotten yet at Tractor Supply is one of the 6 birds that I bought. It just strikes me as a completely bad idea. And I'm going to cut myself off because I'm sure you've heard plenty, but I like this notion of promoting Mansfield as an agricultural haven, if you will, agricultural free zone where people who own very small properties can still raise their birds and try to feed themselves and teach their children how to be rural people, not city people. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to say that I am receptive to what you're saying, and many of you may not know this, but I have a PhD in poultry science. And studied poultry my whole life. So this is a subject of great interest to me. Anyone else would like to speak tonight?
My name is Betty Stern, and I live at 614 Stores Road. My husband neglected to say the one thing that I just keep saying is, what are we supposed to do with all of these unwanted roosters? Nobody talks about that. And I think, and someone alluded to the fact that there are family pets. You don't know they're roosters until you've gotten to know them and you've bonded with them like you would any other pet or any other animal. I can't speak to the meat birds because I don't raise meat birds. But I have enough land and none of this is going to affect me. But what are we going to do with them? We're going to let them go in the woods? Are you going to force us to kill our roosters that have become family pets? Just a thought, when you're going back and looking at all these regulations, please consider, where are they going to go? And I also think that you should lose the box.
Okay, all right. Several people have said that we should lose the box. Now, another thing I should mention is that we had a letter from Brian Coleman saying that the town council really would be better equipped to deal with problems of noise and nuisance. And I think I speak for the commission that we'd be happy to ship all of this entire question over to the town council and let them deal with it. Believe me, the easiest thing in the world would be to say no restrictions and let the town council deal with it. Who else would like to speak?
Hi, Lori Cooper, 100 Mansfield Hollow Road. Just want to add my voice to the concern about PFAS. And I know that your role in what you can do may be limited, but I want to just add, along with my neighbors, just to kind of raise the public consciousness about this. It's really scary to think about forever chemicals in our water, also in our air. Matt Lissy spoke about the smell, and apparently when that's happening, you can actually inhale the particles of the chemicals. And it's so not only unpleasant, but potentially dangerous. So it's great that Mansfield is taking care of its animals and its farms. And I just want to say, yes, let's keep taking care of our people too. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Erin Clark from 19 Crane Hill Road, and I am the director at Mount Hope Montessori School at 48 Bassett's Bridge Road. So I did hear you say that, the scope of what you can do is kind of limited, but kind of reiterating what Lori said, since the meeting is about proposed zoning regulation changes, I want to assert that I feel the need for a full ban on the sale, delivery, or use of any material containing biosolids. And it's been really unpleasant down in Hollow since summer. First, you had the combustion issue, then the health department. The Eastern Highlands solution was to spread it all around. So now we're kind of all nervous about our water and the PFAS in the water. And I mean, I certainly, it feels almost ironic that you can potentially control the number of roosters, but then we can allow this individual to sort of pollute an entire neighborhood. And there are children at the school, obviously, and the teachers are out there every day. And I'm just sitting in my office worrying about everybody. So I just wanted to express concern for the issue. And we've, kind of reached out to everyone at this point. So you're in the loop too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Giovanni Perea. I live at 17 Olson Drive. I do want to talk for the people that did move to this town because of your agricultural community. I did move from a town that didn't allow roosters, And that was a big factor in the decision that I made to move to Mansfield. I also want to bring up the regulations on swine. My family's looking to get we're looking to get pigs as feeder pigs. And we've done the math and we planned accordingly. The town only allows 2 pigs per acre essentially, which is what I live on. We've done the math and we planned accordingly. And to kind of like break even and get the best bang for our buck, we would need two pigs to kind of break even on it. 1 pig for our family for the year, and then 1 to kind of sell to the butcher. As anyone else that has raised animals knows, things don't go according to plan. So I do recommend that we look at changing that part of the box to at least 3 minimum, just to allow small families that are trying to do things economically to at least break even and have some wiggle room for when things do go wrong. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you guys taking all these comments from the community.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Jordan. I live at 131 Hillendale Road. I also own Hillendale Road Farm, as well as I just recently signed an agricultural lease with the town. So I know you already received my general comments, so I don't want to repeat anything that you've already heard from me. But I did want to just add a few other points. Similar to what other people have said, my family and I actually moved from Manchester to Mansfield specifically because we wanted to homestead. So I think I don't want the assumption to be made that people are moving to the town simply because of Yukon, simply because of jobs, things like that. People are moving here because of agriculture and because of the option that exists there. I also am a Yukon graduate and kind of always knew of Mansfield as having these deep agricultural roots. And I think a lot of people think of it like that. And so I knew there was a right to farm town. And I think it will really affect a lot of people who moved here specifically for these options, and also people who would otherwise move here. I have a farm business, it's a newer business, and this is all very concerning to me to see that restrictions are getting tighter instead of kind of being more supportive towards folks who are trying to be sustainable, trying to provide food for the community. Obviously, I have chickens, I sell eggs. I'm getting messages constantly about, are you gonna have eggs today? Are you gonna have eggs today? Like, the community wants it, and it is so expensive from the grocery store. So I just wanted to bring up those points. Also, the bit about farm stands. Again, as someone who has a newer business, or even somebody who has an existing business, there are already so many barriers to having any sort of farm stand, trying to provide food for the community. The additional, I believe it was a 30-foot setback. Already, that just makes it more challenging. You already have to take into consideration the square foot of your farm stand, and you have to take into consideration how many off-street parking spaces you have. There's already 2, I believe, setbacks that are on paper in the regulations. So just adding these additional barriers, it's not just affecting folks who have the farm stands, it's affecting the community who wants access to local food. And you've been asking, what do people think? I've thought a lot about this. I watched pretty much the whole recording of the Ag Commission's meeting. Loved what they had to say. I think looking at best practices makes a lot of sense. Also looking at other towns. I'm interested that you looked at Ashford and saw that there was a restriction on roosters. Actually, at the Farmers Forum, a member of their ag committee, maybe the head of their ag committee, was there. And when I brought up this whole proposal, he was like, you know what? Move to Ashford. We have absolutely no restrictions. And I looked it up, and in fact, there were no restrictions. And I was actually messaging with him the other day, and I said, can you send me that? And they don't have a box. So unless he's confused or I'm confused.
It might have been AI.
You know what? I did
AI
that
answered
too.
the question. Yeah,
AI tricked me up too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I believe.
I was
if you're-
lazy.
If you're looking at other towns, Ashford has a blank box. They have no box. And when he said, why don't you move to Ashford? I'm going to be honest. I went home and said to my husband, we might have to move to Ashford. So I think this affects the community in a lot of different ways. And I appreciate you taking the time. I know this is a lot, and I know you were tabling it, but I appreciate you taking the time to listen to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Laura Manning. I live at 7 Hillside Circle. And I've come up here just because, I'm sitting in the audience. There's a bunch of us back there, and you asked for people who were kind of anti-rooster to come up. I just want to make it clear that I'm not anti-rooster. I do not have chickens. I might have chickens one day. I recognize that roosters are important for the flock. I grew up here. I live now in the same house that I was raised in. I'm in my 50s. And moving back to stores and, coming across things like this where you're trying to regulate on something that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If people are, how many people could possibly be complaining about roosters? It just seems like such a fantasy. I've lived here, or I went away for a while and then came back. But ultimately, like, there's a dog that barks down the road from me. Should we regulate on how many dogs should be allowed on a property? It just seems extremely excessive it actually just seems kind of like a waste of time to regulate and discuss any of this at length. For how long have you guys been working on this? I'm sorry. 2 years. It just seems this, UConn is here. We can't pretend that it's not. My dad was dean of students at UConn. I went to UConn. I'm pro UConn. I'm also pro agriculture in Mansfield. And I'm way more in support of the beautiful agricultural, pastoral aspects of this town than, new people coming to town and turning it into like a commuter hub. We can make this town ugly in about 2 seconds if we keep doing what we're doing. And regulating things like this, it just seems like a waste of time. So I just want to say that I'm a non-chicken owner. I don't even know that much about chickens, but I am absolutely against the rooster thing. And I just wanted to say amen to everyone who has spoken here tonight, because I agree with all of them. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
How's it going? My name's Carl Denton, 64 Olson Drive. Just wanted to speak again on the chicken thing like everyone else does. So obviously roosters are important to the flock. I think like most owners are able to control the amount of roosters they have, because if you have 10 birds, you're not going to want 10 roosters, right? So I think like the most responsible bird owner is only going to have the set amount of roosters that is going to be sized for their flock. Aside from the noise ordinance, I can't imagine how many complaints you guys get or where all this regulation all of a sudden stems from, being that there was existing regulation. Now we're just seem like we're adding more rules into the existing regulation. So I'm not sure where that actually stems from, if it's complaints or it's, someone's idea to just add that in. As far as like the size of the lot per birds, I agree with a lot of other people. I believe that box should not have any regulation. I think that this can come from a couple different places. So as we know, real estate prices have gone, higher as they do, and they're going to continue to as well. Even if they do take a dip, they're, historically going to rise. Back 10 years ago when I came to this town, I did come here and I chose this town for the lack of regulation on the agricultural stuff, having roosters, being able to have roosters, being able to have a flock. Where other towns limit you a lot more, as we talked about, so I believe that we should be able to do that. But yeah, I mean, the lot size, it depends on people's lots. There are some lots that are very small that fall underneath your square footage, but the placement of that lot might not be, heavily populated in a very dense neighborhood. It could be, there's a back lot in our neighborhood that just surrounds, like Joshua's Trust. They could have under an acre, but they could be surrounded by acres of Joshua's Trust. They're not bothering any other neighbors that are complaining. So to have the set limit on square foot, I think just is very restrictive. And if they had no regulation, they could take complaints on a case-by-case basis if that owner is taking their flock and they're keeping it clean and they're being a proper bird owner. If there's neglect, that's a different story, and that can be addressed, on a case-by-case basis. So that's just what I have to say about that. And to leave you as far finding someone else who wants to have swines on my lot, I think that I agree with having three, one for him, the butcher, and one for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Diane.
Like there's this friend, like, why not come back up? Sarah, Diane Dorfer. Sarah, something you said keeps percolating through my mind, and you asked about the enforcement side of things. And more or less, I do appreciate that a lot of the issue of enforcement around the biosolids problem lies outside of zoning. But one point that is relevant to zoning is, as far as I understand it, there is the intention by the landowner to use the biosolids to rebuild a bank in his gravel pit that he needs to remediate. And you guys give special permits, right? Like you guys oversee the solutions.
This is outside of this public hearing, but we are
I
happy.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Happy to take a letter to this effect and to include in the packet related, if it's, is it about this, a specific property and the special permit?
Right. Yeah. It's
so
Sarah asked that question, and
yeah.
Gravel permit renewals happen yearly in June. So if you have specific comments for that, you just keep an eye on the agenda and you send in your letter of concern. One, if there's ever a plan for opening a gravel pit before a gravel pit can be closed, a plan must be approved by the environmental planner for the close down. So it would be good to put in a letter with comments about how it should not be done in the record right then.
Okay.
And but I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. And
I'll-
the issue, and I appreciate this is not the moment, but the issue is every time it rains, we are increasing the pollution that is coming out of this pile. So it's like, sure, wait till June, but what happens in between now and June? So thank you.
Anyone else? Good. Well, I'm glad we had this discussion.
I'd like to speak.
Oh, there's one on the phone. Okay. Yes, phone person, go ahead.
Thanks, folks. My name is Mike Cifaldi. I live on 263 Codfish Falls Road. I am going to support the very unpopular opinion and the proposed restrictions on roosters and guinea fowl on small lots. I know firsthand the impact these birds have on small neighborhoods. Once my own neighbor began keeping roosters, it is not just new residents to Mansfield, it's also just that new hobby chicken coops and new microfarms are springing up. It's not fair to characterize a rooster crowing as just another backyard noise in the rural neighborhood soundscape. These birds are loud, persistent, and early. They wake up neighbors hours before sunrise. And the only reason the town doesn't receive more complaints, I think, is because people are convinced that the town's right to farm ordinance shields every type of farming from any type of repercussion. And I think the only way to correct this is with reasonable zoning restrictions. Connecticut's zoning regulations for livestock best practices guide acknowledges both the Connecticut's right to farm statute and several local right to farm ordinances. But it also makes it clear that these laws do not preempt or prohibit local zoning regulations. The same guide stresses that agricultural best management practices should minimize any impact on the surrounding community. Both of the ordinance they provide in that document as models for small plot farming restrict roosters in some manner. The first for New Haven states no roosters shall be kept on the property. The second for Ellington states roosters are not permitted on property which has less than 3 acres. I also looked up several of our adjoining towns' zoning restrictions, and many of them agree. Tolland, roosters and guinea fowl are not permitted on lots under 2 acres. Willington, the raising of livestock shall require a parcel of 5 acres. Coventry, no livestock under 80,000 square feet. Columbia, roosters are not permitted on small farms. Wyndham, no poultry on lots under 2 acres. No roosters over 6 months in age. I do think that we can have a town that supports both farming and neighborhoods, but I think that balance doesn't happen by accident. It takes clear, reasonable zoning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Oh, we got one more.
Hello, my name is Shelby Colonies and my family owns Tanglewood Farm on 89 in Mansfield. Sorry, get this going. Okay. Although these regulations would not apply to us as we have a larger piece of property, I am here to support our neighbors of the community who are not as privileged as we are. My grandparents bought this farm and handed it down to me. Had I not been given this land, I would have had to purchase my own home and plot of land. I know for a fact that I would have never been able to afford this much land and that many of our community members are in the same boat. Backyard farmers should have the same rights to farm as those with larger properties. Mansfield boasts about its agricultural roots. The town is known for farming and even has a college based around its values. Let's talk about those roosters. Let's say we decide to hatch out some eggs. We get a few roosters out of the bunch. What are we supposed to do with those roosters? Kill them? There is nowhere for them to go. If you look at local farming Facebook groups, everybody's searching for homes for their roosters right now. And unfortunately, they end up going to auction where they are killed. These roosters are there to protect their flocks and they become pets to these families. And they allow us to replenish our flock as chickens stop laying eggs after a few years. Roosters are essential to the flock. Instead of completely changing our town's values and upbringing for a few newcomers, why don't we support those who have been here the longest? The roads in town are named after our farming families. If you move to Mansfield, you move to a town who supports their community members' right to farm. Mansfield is supposed to support local agriculture, farm stands, and keep the community a community. The further we go from our roots, the less of a community we have. Residents who have been here forever, raised families here, paid taxes here, devoted their time and money into the community are moving away. I know a few of them, and they're moving to Ashford. We used to be Mansfield proud. The Mansfield community is being forgotten as the Yukon community is being put first. Yukon residents are temporary. Mansfield residents are the ones who stay and put in the effort to make the town and community better. Fight for those who fight for Mansfield. We are so fortunate to still have our roots. We have people who see this town as their community, a place to raise kids, a place to call home forever. Many towns have lost that. People are buying a house just to live in for the near future and dream of moving to a town just like ours. Some people even said that today. Our town is so close to losing that charm. It's time we bring back our community. And part of that is allowing families to grow their own food and share with their neighbors. It's what we did as kids. One zucchini plant for the entire neighborhood. One family's chicken eggs, another family's milk. It's been too long since I've seen that kind of community, but it feels like it's starting to make a return. I offer eggs to the community in my donation-based egg stand. I don't charge a specific amount. I just ask that you pay what your family can afford, even if that means it's for free. I have people in town asking to trade eggs for meat and veggies. The community needs this type of kindness. It takes a village to raise a family, and I feel like the villages are building again. Please don't regulate our backyard farmers. Our community needs this to be denied in order to survive. I'd also like to note that guinea hens are much louder than roosters. I personally have them. Roosters only crow for a few times a day, while guinea hens, they literally scream all day. So if the guinea hens have less acreage restrictions than roosters, it just doesn't make sense. I went to the Ag Committee meeting and recommended removing the square footage because it is variable by lot and by farmer. It's also not humane to keep just one herd animal by itself. They're social creatures just like us. I recommend, if it is a manure issue, that you have us, if we have a certain limit of animals, whatever you come up with, that we send over a waste management plan instead of the square footage regulations. It's not fair for us to restrict lot size for those who cannot afford more land. Thank you for your time, and I would happily volunteer to help our town figure this out in ways that benefit our community.
Thank you. Now, when I was growing up in Mansfield, I had guinea hens, I must confess, on a small lot, and annoyed the neighbors. Anyone else? I think thank you, Craig, for suggesting that we,
So we'll talk about this under old business as to, well, the commission will, but right now you're
right now,
you're
I think
deciding whether or not to close the public hearing or can,
continue.
well, no, you can close it now that you've heard from people. If
okay.
it's up to you.
Because we can start a new one with the new,
Correct, you could,
when they
yes.
come back. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
you can do what, yeah.
Okay, should we close this hearing?
What is your?
I can't put it forward.
Which moves to close the public hearing?
Moved by which?
Second by Corsi.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Okay, I don't see you, Josh, but I assume you're saying yes.
I am raising my hand.
Okay, all right, okay. Passes unanimously. We have finished Part B for tonight. On to Part C. Okay, so I open a public hearing on PZC initiated amendments to Article 4, 190-20 of the zoning regulations related to home occupations. And members present are Aho Corsi, Al Fertoni, Katie Fertoni, Wuch, Bernor, and Hadrinsky. And oh, yes. Okay, let's do that.
If a 5-minute recess would be appropriate, Mr. Chair, you can call for that now.
Okay, 5-minute recess.
Come back at
Recording stopped.
7:58, everybody online.
Thank you, guys. For listening.
Quick answer.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we're back from our break at 8:05 p.m. And we are starting the third public hearing, and we need to, so it's being opened at 8:05 p.m. and we need to read the public notice.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Last one of the night. The Mansfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearings on Monday, April 21st, 2025 via a hybrid meeting to hear comments regarding the following applications: 6:10 p.m. or later, PZC initiated amendments to Article 8, Section 190-20 of the zoning regulations related to home occupations, PZC file number 907-66. Information on how to participate in the public hearings will be included in the meeting agenda, available at least 48 hours prior to the hearings in the town's agenda center, www.mansfieldct.gov/agenda center. No information from the public shall be received after the close of the public hearings. Additional information regarding these applications is available in the Mansfield Planning Office, AP Beck Municipal Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, Mansfield CT 06268, or by emailing planzonedept@mansfieldct.org. That was published on Thursday, April 10th and Thursday, April 17th.
Thank you. So since this is a PZC initiated amendment,
So this home occupation regulation is something that also you've been working on for about, I'd say between 4 and 6 months, on and off. And the purpose of the regulation is to support small-scale economic activity while preserving the residential character of the property and neighborhood, and to minimize disturbances such as excessive traffic and noise. So we are or the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Regulatory Review Committee has looked at this, is proposing to make the regulations clearer, more user-friendly, and to allow expanded uses under certain conditions. So if adopted, again, the existing regulation would replace, and this would be repealed, and this regulation would be replaced. And so if you can all see that, basically, we've reformatted the regulations so to put it in a table format, which will make it a lot easier for the applicant and for staff and for the commission. So before, it wasn't really clear, or we had some questions about what was a home office. So we kind of, through this table, we're defining what a home office is. And basically, if you don't have any external evidence, can you go down just a little bit? Thank you. There's no parking or storage, no signage, no visits from the members of the public. Then you have a home office, no zoning permit, no nothing. That's like many of us who have spouses or people who work from home. That would be what a home office is. Then if you go back up, Michael, there's 2 categories of home businesses that can have for a home business that requires a zoning permit, you would have a compliance review every 5 years. Currently, we require you to renew the zoning permit, which is really not allowed by state statute because the zoning permit runs with the land. So now what we're saying is we want you to come in and we want to review with you what you're doing for your home occupation. We are not going to charge you. Right now, there's no fee for that. If it's within, it's accessory to a residential dwelling. There's no minimum lot size for a smaller scale home business. If you want to have more intensified home business, you need 2 acres. They're permitted in any residential zone. So then it kind of, when you go from a zoning permit to a special use permit, it would be how many non-resident employees you have. So if it's more than 2, then you can come in and get a special permit. Let's see, the use of accessory buildings, that is changed a little bit. Exterior evidence, you have to comply with, those are our signing regulations, I believe. And yes, no, that would be 120D is actually the home regulation. So basically, it's just allowing for Certain businesses, you get a zoning permit, things like art studios, barbershops, clothing alteration, teaching, short-term rentals, professional office, cottage food operator, grooming facility, excluding a commercial kennel. But if you want to do something like the sale of antiques, which you might have more employees or you might have more people coming to visit your property, then you would have to have a special permit. It's not saying we're not going to allow it, but the bar is a little bit higher. So that's what we've done there. Let's see what else. So there's that new table component, the addition of a special permit for more intensive home businesses. We do a compliance review. We did add some definitions. We added the definition of home occupation, short-term rental, a single-family residence, and then definitions consistent with the Connecticut general statutes were added to that, and those include grooming facility, kennel, and commercial kennel. The limitation that home occupations were not permitted within dwellings that contain 2 or more units or within buildings accessory to 2 or more dwelling units has been removed because we didn't feel that was really important. So that's what you have in terms of those regulation changes.
Okay, I don't think Diane is going to volunteer to talk about
Oh, yeah,
this.
there is. I'm not sure if I made that clear, but there is a zoning permit fee for a home occupation. The compliance review fee is what I'm not sure is how we're going to handle that charge yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from the commission?
Or anyone online?
Anyone
We
online?
have 1, 2, perhaps phone numbers of. Doesn't look like so, Mr. Chair.
Okay. If we have no comments from the commission or from outside the commission, we could close this hearing.
Which moves to close the public hearing?
Moved by Which,
Corsi seconds.
second by Corsi. Any discussion? I see thumbs up. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you for coming. I know it's been a day. We have been joined by Josh Walters.
Yeah, would you look at that? He's no longer online. That makes sense.
So you heard the whole thing? Good. Okay, did I do a vote?
Yes.
I did. Okay, it passed unanimously and that hearing is closed. We're on to old business. And the first old business is the definitions one, PCC initiated amendments on definitions. So we have a motion on your. Yes, thank you.
Corsi moves to approve the PZC initiated amendments to Article 3, Section 190-13 of the zoning regulations related to definitions, PZC file 907-64, as set forth in the final draft for April 21st, 2025 public hearing, with the following amendment recommended by the Town Attorney Incorporated. Revise the definition of duplex to read a single building consisting of 2 unassociated dwelling units constructed with separate entrances. In approving these amendments, the Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed and considered all public hearing testimony and communications, including reports from the CRCOG and CCOG Regional Planning Commissions, Mansfield's Director of Planning and Development, and the Mansfield Town Attorney. The Commission makes the following findings in the adoption of these amendments. 1, these amendments are adopted pursuant to the provisions and authority granted by Section 8-2 of the Connecticut General Statutes. 2, the amendments promote the purposes of zoning regulations identified in Article 1 of Mansfield zoning regulations by promoting and protecting the overall health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the residents of Mansfield, Connecticut, and the general public. 3, the proposed amendments are consistent with the Mansfield Tomorrow Plan of Conservation and Development, POCD. These amendments shall become effective May 29th, 2025.
Moved by Corsi,
Second by Butch.
second by Wutch. Any discussion?
I see here we had a letter from attorney Deneen. She recommended we replace the duplex definition, a residential building, with the word single. So it'd be a single building consisting of 2 unassociated dwelling units constructed with separate entrances.
That I did, yeah, so I did put that in, so I meant to bring that to your attention. It is part of the public hearing record because it was included in your packet, but the town attorney did at about noon today give us some recommendations, and I've included that as an amendment in the motion.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay. Next, we have the PCC initiated amendments related to agriculture.
I'll do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a short one.
Yeah. Of course, he moves to withdraw the PZC-initiated amendments to Article 8, Section 190-65 of the zoning regulations related to agriculture. PZC file 907-65.
Moved by Corsi.
Second by Benoit.
Okay. Second by-
Question.
Yes.
Did Jennifer say that we had to set a public hearing date for this?
Because you held the hearing and had a whole bunch of testimony and then you closed the hearing, you don't have to set another time. If you had chosen before hearing the testimony to just say, we're just going to keep it open and then we're going to withdraw it when we get to it, you would have had to set a time, but you don't have to do that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay. Passes unanimously. Okay. Then we have the home occupations. And we have proposed motion in your materials.
Which moves to approve the PCZ initiated amendments to Article 4, subsection 190-20 of the zoning regulations related to home occupations, PZC file number 907-66, as set forth in the final draft for April 21st, 2025 public hearing. In approving these amendments, the Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed and considered all public hearing testimony and communications, including reports from the CRCOG and CCOG Regional Planning Commissions, Mansfield's Director of Planning and Development, and the Mansfield Town Attorney. The commission makes the following findings in the adoption of these amendments. These amendments, number 1, these amendments are adopted pursuant to the revisions and authority granted by Section 8-2 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Number 2, the amendments promote the purposes of zoning regulations identified in Article 1 of Mansfield zoning regulations by promoting and protecting the overall health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the residents of Mansfield, Connecticut, and the general public. Number 3, the proposed amendments are consistent with the Mansfield Tomorrow Plan of Conservation and Development, POCD. Further, these regulations support Goal 6.5 of the POCD related to ensuring that Mansfield's land use regulations support business retention and expansion while protecting community character. These amendments shall become effective May 29th, 2025.
Moved by Wutch.
Second by Walters.
Okay. Second by Walters. And any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, all we have to do is receive some applications in our new business. We have a special permit application of Andrea Gomez for, they're going to completely redo that McDonald's?
So
Tear
we're
it
getting a new,
completely down?
we're getting a new McDonald's.
They're tearing it down and starting over?
Right, in the
They
same
are
spot.
tearing it down and starting it over and starting over with some improvements.
And a little expansion out of some wetlands for you?
So, yeah,
Wouldn't be fun otherwise.
there's a wetlands application that came in as an agent approval. I reviewed the plan and I've been talking with the designer to make sure that there's no encroachment on any existing vegetative buffers and that there's going to be improved stormwater that's going to meet all our standards. But it looks like they're going to be able to accomplish that. So it's not going to go any further back in the woods. Tree line is going to stay the same. I'm going to have much better stormwater. So no real changes in impact and it's just going to be a better parking lot.
So it'll actually be better than it is now.
That is the hope. Yeah. And there'll be a circulation path in the front, so you don't have to try to go out into the street to turn around when you miss on your order or something like that.
Okay, all we have to do is receive it tonight.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
So the way they filed it is they have a special permit application as well as a site plan application. So those are two separate applications. That's why you have two.
So we have to receive both of them.
Correct.
Okay, so who wants to do 5A? Okay,
Move seconded to receive the special use permit application.
Jimmy, or Jim, you got to speak into the microphone.
Is your microphone on? Is your microphone on?
And
No
you got
worries.
to speak right into it, otherwise we can't.
Is now, I think.
Perfect,
Yeah,
yes, that is.
Yeah, right into it.
You gotta blame a rookie.
Yeah.
Move seconded to receive the special use permit application of Andrea Gomes, Esquire, agent for owner GGMITT LLC, for redevelopment of the existing McDonald's restaurant site located at 118 Stores Road, Assessor's Parcel ID 38.109.37, PZC file number P817-1, and to schedule a public hearing to hear comments on said application at the PZC's regular hybrid meeting on Monday, May 19th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the council's chambers of the Audrey P. Beck Municipal Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, and to refer said application to relevant town commissions, boards, and committees for review and comment.
moved by Hadrinsky.
Second by Benor.
So may I make a suggestion? In talking with Jennifer and looking at our upcoming schedule of meetings, may I request that the motion be amended to read, to hear comments on said application pursuant at a public hearing pursuant to statutory requirements and to refer said application. And we will work with the applicants on the
'Cause it might not be that
scheduling of the
exact date.
date.
Right.
Yeah.
Within the time frame, and it most likely it will be before, you'll have a special meeting before before May 19th.
Okay, and that's acceptable to
Do we have someone from
to everyone?
So if
Okay.
that's acceptable, then Mr. Drinsky, Mr. Benor, you both just say accept it as a friendly amendment and then it's good.
Yes.
I accept.
Okay, good. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. And here's the second one on the same. Right, this is, we have to do two, so this is the second one, 5B. You guys are all warmed up. You can do it again.
Benor moves seconded to receive the site plan application of Andrea Gomes, ESC agent for owner GGMITT LLC for redevelopment of the existing McDonald's restaurant site located at 118 Stores Road, Assessor's Parcel ID number 38.109.37, PZC file P817-1, and to schedule a public hearing to hear comments on said application at the PZC's regular hybrid meeting on Monday, May 19th, 2025 at 6:05 p.m. in the council chambers of the Audrey P. Beck Municipal Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, and to refer said application to relevant town commissions, boards, committees for review and comment.
moved by Bernard, and we're going to make that same change, right?
Correct.
to-
So we're going to schedule the public hearing pursuant to statutory requirements.
Second by Witch.
Second by Witch. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Oh, do we have anything else?
Well, we're already here so long. You want to talk about anything else?
Actually, I was looking behind Champagne Motors today, looking where they were parking all their cars. And they still have them all lined up in the area they're gonna designate as.
Yep. So we need to,
Could I give an update?
yeah.
Is there like a staff update?
What happened?
Yeah, so,
staff update.
yeah,
Look
so
at
just trying to
staff
figure
update.
out where to fit this into the
Yeah.
agenda. So staff was notified today that they are scheduled to commence work in May. But the dynamic separator, is that correct, Michael? The hydrodynamic separator is essentially back ordered till June. And they're not sure when they're going to get that, so staff will work with the applicants.
It's amazing the back order on certain structures right now.
Oh.
They ordered it, they should have ordered it.
That's something we can't confirm.
So you know what the answer is.
We do have a bond deadline.
Right, so we're gonna have to
Okay.
So
deal
we're,
with that.
yeah, so staff will reach out to the applicants and try to figure
They're
that
gonna have to
out.
move those cars eventually.
They do not have the Jeeps on the, up on the.
Yes,
Saw the
that,
Jeep. They must have been
that's an improvement.
They planted trees.
Now, will McDonald's connect that sidewalk?
Yeah, so there are some improvements. I haven't done a deep dive into the plans yet, but I think I recall a stone wall. So I think they've looked at we provided them with Champagne's plans and they've looked at them. And so let's hope that we get a really, really nice product.
Good. Yeah, looking better. Okay, I think we are done for tonight at 8:25 PM. Thank you very much.
Was that a hand, Zach? Or is that
Recording
goodbye?
stopped.
Oh, no, that's goodbye. Bye, Zach.
Bye.